Am I the a-hole for snapping at my fiancée because she left our daughter alone with her alcoholic mom? I, 28 male, do not trust my fiancée's 26 female mother at all. This is due to the fact that she is an alcoholic and has been since my fiancé was a kid. My partner has told me numerous stories from her childhood that are horrible. Her mom was severely neglectful, and her dad ended up taking care of her and her sister full-time. My fiancé stopped talking to her mom when she was a teenager, but reconnected with her 5 years ago. Her mom claims to be in recovery, but she still drinks, and I don't have much respect for her whatsoever. My fiancé and I have a 14-month-old daughter. I made it clear from the start of her pregnancy that when our child is born, I want her mother to have limited contact, and is under no circumstance allowed to be around our kid unsupervised. My fiancé agreed to this, and so far has abided. That is, until yesterday when I came home from work and found my fiancé's mom and my daughter together, alone. I asked where my fiancé is, and her mom said that she went to the grocery store. I'm immediately fired up, but managed to keep my cool until my partner gets home and her mom leaves. I asked my partner what the hell did she think she was doing leaving her mom and our daughter alone together. I told her it was a stupid and irresponsible thing to do. She tried to defend it by saying that she was only gone for 20 minutes. I snapped and said, what kind of mom leaves her kid by themselves with a drunk? My fiancé called me Neho and started crying. Now she has barely spoken to me. I guess I'm confused, because after all what my fiancé has been through with her mom, I would have thought that she would know better. I just want to protect our daughter. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm seeing a lot of it was only 20 minutes, which, yeah, it was only 20 minutes, which means there was zero reason for your fiancé to not wait till you got home to leave. Both parents need to agree on who gets to be alone with their child, and your fiancé did agree, and she broke that agreement over a very trivial situation. It was not okay. I don't understand the "you're the a-hole" or "everyone sucks here" comments. The wife crossed a predetermined boundary. I feel like if it was the husband in this situation, everyone would be harping on him to no end. Why would you leave your child unattended with an alcoholic who has proven to be a bad parent? The husband was clearly concerned for his daughter's safety and well-being. The wife's only concern was that he pointed out that a bad parent would make that decision, which I think is fair. If you're more concerned with being called out on your horrible parenting than being a good parent, maybe being a parent isn't for you. It takes very little time for something horrible to happen to a child, even with an attentive parent or babysitter. Example, drownings or running outside into the street. Not the a-hole. You're concerned for your daughter. The mother was an abuser and a drunk. This should be treated as if something bad would happen. The mother needs to be supervised with her grandchild, and your wife didn't even talk to you about leaving their daughter alone. Maybe your wife leaves her child alone with others. Your wife needs to reevaluate how to be a good parent. Hi, mistreated daughter of an alcoholic mother here. This is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think a little bit of compassion goes a long way. Everyone sucks here. Your fiancé for leaving your daughter with her mom, and you for your reaction to this. Plus for how you approached the situation regarding grandma's level of contact with your daughter. Your fiancé is the one who went through the trauma with her mother, not you. She's the best judge of her own mother's character. The way you said, my fiancé agreed to this and so far has abided, makes me wonder how you talked to her about it. Did you have an actual conversation with her where the both of you came to a mutual conclusion, where both of you are active participants? Or did you just put forth your demand while she was pregnant with her child? If the latter, she opened up to you about her traumatic experiences, and you used them to put her in adversarial position when you really didn't need to. Was she planning on using her mom as a live-in nanny or something? If my fiancé did this to me, it would cause a lot of resentment and spite on my end. It wouldn't exactly motivate me to enforce the executive decision made in this conversation. The comment you made about her being a bad mother was too far and uncompassionate, and a great way to foster resentment in your relationship. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my son the truth about math? My wife is a high school math teacher. Math is her passion, and she loves teaching. She has always been a math wizard, and thinks math is this super fun subject that is enjoyable and relaxing. To decompress as a kid, she'd do algebra. For fun, she'd do hard calculus. To me, it's endearing, and she does have fun and is enjoyable outside of math and academics. Ever since my son was 3, she started teaching him math. She tried to teach him to count at 1 year old, but he couldn't really speak, so it didn't work out. When he was 5, she started teaching him all the math she could. When he was in grade 1, he aced the class because he'd learned all of it before from his mother. This essentially made her think that her teaching him advanced math was a good thing, and pretty much all their time together is math-related. By grade 3, he was doing algebra. He's a bright kid. And at first, he was really interested in math because it helped him understand how the world works. Now, he's in grade 5 going to grade 6, and she started teaching some of high school syllabus. He'd been losing interest for a while because the math was slowly drifting away from real-world application and into x plus 6 times x plus 7, solve for x. That's where he began to lose interest. And because he's obviously young and not really ready for that kind of math yet, she had pushed him insanely hard to get him to do well in it. There were days where she'd come home from work and my wife would immediately start drilling him with math. Recently, there's been several fights because he wanted to go play video games with his friends instead of doing math. My wife told him to do the math, which I'm assuming is IGCSE trigonometry, which I think is insane, as in our school system. He's not even in middle school yet, and she's making him do high school level work. She left the room because she had to attend to something, and my son threw his pen on the ground and started crying. I was already annoyed because he barely ever gets to play with his friends, and his holidays have just started. I guess she wants him to ace his math classes, but this was too far for me. He asked me, I was in the room, why this math was even needed, because he couldn't see any use for it outside of school tests. I told him that, honestly, 80% of math is useless in the real world. I haven't used algebra since I left high school, and I work in government. I have barely come across grade 9 level trigonometry and have never seen high school algebra or calculus outside of school in math-related fields. I did tell him that math was important to get into colleges, but I don't think he should be worrying about that when he's not even in middle school yet. After this, I got into a huge fight with my wife where she was screaming at me for impeding their relationship. I told her that their relationship can't be just math. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. I'm a math teacher. Forcing math or any learning down young children's throats does more harm than good. My daughter's talented at math. We do no math together at home beyond her schoolwork. She is 5. She needs to be 5. So when she's home, she plays, spends time with her family, has fun. However, I can't tell you how bloody difficult it is to teach a child at secondary level who has a commentary from home of, math is pointless, you'll never need this, etc. As soon as a kid says, well, my mom/dad says, my heart sinks. Math has many real-world applications, and honestly, even if those aren't things the person wants to do, a whole load more doors are open to the student who has gained a decent math grade in GCSE. You and your wife need to sort yourselves out. Between you, you are entirely sabotaging his education. Her by making him resent it, you by undermining its importance. Right? The mom is an A for her pressuring the kid, but OP, times are changing. Would your son ever like to go anywhere in academia or STEM? Would he ever like to learn a trade like electrician or plumber? What about anything to do with computers? Whether that is a practical side or software? Pilot? Engineer? Architect? Data analyst? Anything to do with logistics? Then he will need math. Just because your career hasn't involved any math at all, and wow, the chances of him also managing to get a government job like that are small, does not mean your experiences are universal. Wow, way to make this world seem smaller than it is. I wish health professionals were taught better math, because the amount of peers I saw spewing statistical BS during the COVID crapstorm is far too high. Not day hall. A lot of my job is math, so how useful it is depends on the direction you decide to go. I don't think he should be worrying about that when he's not even in middle school yet. I agree, and this is what makes you not the a-hole. Let the kid be a kid. Your wife's approach sounds like it will probably make him hate math. His wife's approach also doesn't sound like a good teaching method. First of all, the drilling. Second, the non-real-life application. I had a teacher like that from year 7 to 9. Barely got through it. Then I had an awesome teacher year 10 to 13 and suddenly got only A's and B's. And third, not taking criticism on math. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter we're having financial problems? I, 36 female, adopted my niece, Haley, 8 female, when she was 14 months old. Haley is beautiful, kind, and smart, and is the best thing that ever happened to me. I own my own restaurant, and the shutdowns affected us, but I rent out a few houses and apartments, so I still had an income. And my best friend, Amy, 36 female, and her daughter Grace, 7 female, moved in with us in January because she wanted to go back to school and wanted to save money. This arrangement was perfect because with her school schedule and my work schedule, one of us was always home with the girls, and we rarely had to pay for childcare. Now, between my restaurant, the rent from the houses and apartments, and some investments, Haley and I were pretty comfortable. There was recently a fire at my restaurant, and we're going to be out of business for a while. On top of that, one of my apartments flooded, and the repairs aren't cheap. Haley walked in on me and Amy talking about our financial situation and budgeting. She asked what we were doing, and I said that Amy and I were trying to find ways that we could save money. She asked why we were doing that, and I told her that with the fire and flood, money's tight right now, and told her that we'll be okay in a few months. She asked a few questions and offered to sell some of her toys and set up a lemonade stand to help out. I explained that this is between the grown-ups, and that we just won't be able to go toy shopping or go out to eat too often, and we may have to postpone our trip to Disneyland. She said okay and went back to her room. The second Haley left, Amy laid into me for telling Haley about my financial situation and said that she's too young to know these things. In my opinion, telling an 8-year-old mommy's not making that much money right now so we can't go out to eat or get new toys that much, everything's gonna go back to normal in a few months, isn't going to scar them for life. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that we're having financial problems? Not the a-hole. Kids pick up on things. You explained she had no reason to be concerned about food, shelter, or other necessities, just that you'd need to be more careful with money. What you described sounded age-appropriate and reassuring to me. Follow-up with her is needed to make sure she's okay and not overly worried. I'll definitely check on her and make sure that she's okay, but right now she seems perfectly happy. I'm sure she's absolutely fine. What you said sounds perfectly reasonable and age-appropriate. I'd definitely follow up with a conversation about how you appreciate her offer. Not a hole at all. Not a hole. She's asked a few questions and offered to sell some of her toys and set up a lemonade stand to help out. She clearly understands how income and savings work. So no, she's obviously not too young. Haley would have picked up on what was going on. Kids realize a lot more than people give them credit for. The honesty will go a long way here, and will keep her from worrying about something she didn't need to. Not a hole. I think you offered an excellent age-appropriate answer to your daughter's question. You also showed her you would always be honest when she asks you something. Plus, Amy has zero say in how you raise your own daughter. Not a hole. This is how you teach kids how the world works. Sometimes the extras need to be cut back, so the necessities can comfortably be affordable. Budgeting and belt tightening. And also how you boost her confidence in you and your ability to provide during times of crisis. You explained in kid-appropriate language. You didn't catastrophize. You assured her you had it handled. Perfectly done. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting to elope after my parents cut my wedding budget in half? I'm recently engaged and I've started planning my wedding. I'm the only girl and my parents make good money, about $450,000 yearly, so they've always said they'd pay for my wedding when I decide to get married. I set my budget around $25,000 and started getting estimates on venue, photographer, videographer, etc. My dad said the budget was $40,000, which I knew I'd be way below, so I wouldn't have to stress about DIYing the whole thing and enjoy the planning process. My mom has consistently pushed me to cut corners and have a cheaper wedding, and said she'd give me a few thousands as a gift if I do. Note, my mom is notorious for backtracking on promises when it comes to money. My fiancé and I agree would rather have a nice, put-together wedding than accept a gift. Might I restate, she backtracks on these decisions last minute too often for me to trust it. My mom has also gotten estimates of how much her friends paid for their daughters' weddings, all of which were over $25,000, and agreed they could swing that financially. The kicker here is after those two estimates were thrown out, my parents backtracked and gave me a final wedding budget of $20,000. My mom is also pushing me to use vendors her friends used instead of me finding people that fit my style. She wants a southern-born wedding. I like more modern elegance. I wouldn't be so upset with them had the budget been $20,000 from the beginning, but it seems as if they pulled that number out of thin air. They also created this budget after my mom spent $3,000 on my dress and veil, so I'm now left with $17,000. Another issue I have is, they have no problem buying baseball tickets for $200 a piece and spending $100+ on dinner multiple nights a week. They also just bought one of my younger brothers a car. He's in his junior year of college. My fiancé and I are long distance and will be until we're married. And when I told my mom I'd rather elope than dance around a wedding budget and not be able to enjoy my day, she flipped. She's pretty much refusing to let me elope. And when I told her to plan the wedding herself because she's being so picky, she had a problem with that too. I feel as if there's no winning in this situation. Quite frankly, I just want to be married to the man I love instead of arguing over wedding budgets with my parents. Everyone sucks here. Sorry, but you sound incredibly entitled whinging about your parents only giving you $20,000 for a single-day event. That's an annual salary for some people. Your mom is being overly pushy, which I can imagine is really annoying. If she offered to pay for a wedding as a gift, then it should be yours to design. If you want to elope, then do it. Edit. Some people seem to be getting really annoyed with the judgment I have made. But there is no denying the mom is an a-hole for being so controlling and changing the budget. But I stand by my statement that OP sounds entitled, and that makes this a solid everyone sucks here for me. Especially when they say they have an issue with parents spending $100 on a meal. While I understand and agree that this is insanely expensive wedding is a clear example of entitlement, OP is not the a-hole in this situation. OP's parents gave them an original budget, one that was $15,000 above what they were planning on using. Then after planning begun, the parents went back on their word and cut the budget in half. It doesn't matter if the original budget was $40,000 or $4,000, they still went back on a promise and are trying to control OP's wedding. Also, the fact that OP is perfectly fine with just eloping rather than spending so much money on something they don't want proves not the a-hole even further. They'd be spending maybe $1,000 rather than thousands. She's pretty much refusing to let me elope. Lol. And how will she stop you? Not the a-hole at all. If you and your partner want to elope, then go for it. It's about the two of you and no one else. If other people are making the whole wedding thing into a nightmare of drama and BS, then eloping sounds like a pretty good idea to me. Right? You don't need your parents' permission to elope. In fact, it wouldn't be eloping if you had their permission.